power never just disappears. Limiting power is actually a way to show how much power you have. In April 2011, Donald Trump, who was famous for the reality show The Apprentice, announced he would run in the 2012 presidential election. A few weeks later, at a White House press dinner, then President Obama took a jab at Trump sitting down below. Trump's political advisor, Roger Stone, revealed that this dinner was a turning point for Trump, even though we usually talk about capital. Controlling national power in the US doesn't mean just anyone can grab it. In reality, even someone like Trump, a billionaire real estate mogul, could only hang around the edges of Washington like a student trying to figure out how power works. Step out of line, and you'll face some serious humiliation from the power players. Trump is the kind of guy who can't stand being disrespected. If before, his presidential run was just about promoting his business empire, after that night, he really felt the power. When Trump decided to go for the White House, a porn star named Stormy Daniels reached out to a Hollywood guy named Blatt. This guy specializes in making money by selling private photos and videos of celebrities, and now he had his sights set on Trump. But they didn't realize that this time they weren't just getting into a regular deal, but a historic drama about sex, money, and aimed right at the heart of America's highest power. The 90s were a golden era for many Americans because the threat of another superpower had completely vanished. The shadow of the Twin Towers collapse hadn't yet fallen, and the subprime mortgage crisis in New York hadn't yet left millions of people across the U.S. homeless. It seemed far away at that point. At that time, Trump had just blown through $4 billion he borrowed from over 70 banks, buying up the Plaza Hotel in Midtown Manhattan and Trump Tower at 40 Wall Street. Atlantic City in New Jersey and Mar-a-Lago and Palm Beach, Florida were bought by Trump back in 1996, and he also owned the Miss Universe pageant. He even left his mark on the Hollywood Walk of Fame as a producer of the contest. Meanwhile, there's a guy named Blatter who's keeping an eye on everything happening in Hollywood from different angles, even though Blatter didn't inherit a billion-dollar fortune from his parents. He still found ways to make money off scams, spam calls, celebrity gossip, and the trending porn sites of the time. While those shining stars were busy talking about how to create great works of this era, Blatter was focused on all the dirty stuff they were too ashamed to show on screen. Just like the church pointed out centuries ago, shame can actually be profitable. Blatt spent 20 years building a different reputation in Hollywood. If you want to see something that could embarrass a celebrity, just call Blatt. But Blatt has never done anything illegal, like using inappropriate photos or videos of a celebrity for a payday. That would actually be blackmail, and in California, where Hollywood is, that's a serious crime. His approach is to leak some photos or videos to the media, and then, under the freedom of the press protected by the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, these outlets can report on the existence of the video and describe its content. If a celebrity doesn't want the media to touch on certain topics, like cheating or racist remarks, they'll reach out to Blatter and his clients. With a lawyer's oversight, they'll pay a sum to get a non-disclosure agreement to keep any further info from leaking to the press. In Blatt's eyes, he's just playing middleman for a deal because people usually don't realize the value of what they have. As a seasoned pro, he can give both sides a fair price reference. This summer, Pinduoduo's hundreds of billions in subsidies are a real steal, with all sorts of hot products at super low prices. This summer, there are some great deals. You can snag the God of War Z8 gaming laptop with a 12th Gen i7 chip and an RTX 4060 graphics card for a reasonable price, plus a discount of $6,096, which is $600K cheaper than other platforms. The latest iPhone, the iPhone 14 Pro, is also on sale with an awesome deal. It's officially priced at $79.99, but you can get it for just $63.47 on Pinduoduo, which means you'll save enough to grab some AirPods too. Pinduoduo offers official discounts, and their quality and service are top-notch, so you can shop confidently. It's a cool summer, so if you're looking to buy something, just check Pinduoduo for price comparisons. The products are the same, and you could save a few $100 or even $1,000. Moreover, Blatter is a businessman who really respects the spirit of contracts. Most of the stuff he holds onto has never been made public, only a small part gets shared with the parties involved so they can see the value in it. He only talks to the media to describe a portion of the content. Most of Blatter's clients also stick to non-disclosure agreements and never get greedy with multiple demands. In the Hollywood scene, lawyers and brokers like Blatter work together to keep the whole hush-hush system running smoothly. They're like people living in the shadows, dealing with the trash and all the decay, never getting any recognition but absolutely essential. It's here that the most basic and sacred principles of the free world, the very essence of liberty, come alive. Everyone has to take charge of their own fate, able to freely make deals with anyone and act on those agreements. Strangely enough, when this place intersects with the world under the sunlight, those principles of liberty get thrown out the window. In 2011, the same year Trump decided to run for president, adult film star Amber Daniels reached out to Blatt about her rumored affair with him. She was super excited to take this on. A billionaire and a famous reality TV star was right up Blatt's alley. Daniels had a photo of herself with Trump at a celebrity golf tournament in Nevada back in 2006, and with her testimony, this was bound to be a big story. But Blatt tried to reach out to Trump several times without any luck, so he decided to do something to grab Trump's attention. In October 2011, a fashion magazine and a gossip news site reported on the affair between Trump and Daniels. To boost the attention, Daniels even used a lie detector during an interview. But what Blatter didn't see coming was that Trump really knew how to handle situations like this. If you just ignore them, they won't cause any damage. However, at this moment, Trump clearly overlooked something else. In the cutthroat battle for power in the U.S., candidates will seize any chance to attack their opponents. 5 years later, right before the 2016 election, as Trump's fame grew, the value of this scandal also shot up, and in the end, Daniels received $130,000 in hush money from Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen. But when the conservative elites in Washington realized that this newly elected president was a bit too different, the deal that was supposed to be in the bag suddenly became the center of media attention. On January 12, 2018, the Wall Street Journal first broke the story about this hush money deal. Blatter quickly figured out that his industry was getting caught up in a power struggle whirlwind. While criticizing Trump, mainstream media started questioning the basic ethics behind this hush money deal, and eventually, the whole spirit of the contract that held the entire industry together began to crumble. On March 6, 2018, Daniels filed a lawsuit in the California Supreme Court, asking to declare that the non-disclosure agreement he signed with Trump was invalid. This move felt like hitting them where it hurts and would definitely shake up the hush money industry. From now on, whenever wealthy people want to shell out cash for their crazy antics, they'll have to wonder if it's worth it and if the other party might come back to bite them. What's even scarier is that there's no guarantee that those who signed the confidentiality agreement won't follow Daniels' lead to cash in. This outcome definitely isn't good for the elite in the US, nor is it beneficial for those in power who want to keep living freely. But to push Trump out of the center of power, they're still choosing to go this route. Clearly, they chose to protect their own interests over sticking to the principles of freedom. On April 9, 2018, a group of FBI agents raided Trump's lawyer Cohen's office and seized emails, tax documents, and his business records, including notes about payments to Daniels. After the raid, Daniels struck a cooperation deal directly with the FBI to continue her lawsuit against Trump. At this point, things were beyond what Blatter, a gossip peddler, could handle. Since Trump became the Republican presidential candidate, Blatter has been pushed out of the main narrative of the whole event. Only a few boring websites have tried to cover the entire scandal, and they occasionally mention that he spilled the beans to a tabloid back in 2011. But when Blatter returned to Hollywood to restart his career, he realized that this incident had affected the hush money industry way more than he ever thought. From Mulholland Drive in Hollywood, head east through one of the most unique and expensive neighborhoods in the world, and you'll come across the famous Laurel Canyon. Back in Hollywood's golden age, this once remote and rugged area suddenly became the perfect spot for movie stars to settle down, thanks to its proximity to major studios. It's no surprise that it quickly turned into a hotspot that wealthy folks were eager to snag. Fancy cars zipped past the luxurious mansions in Laurel Canyon. That day, a blindfolded man named Brat stepped out of one of those cars. After stepping into the villa, Blatter was asked to strip down so the security team could check if he was carrying any listening devices. Eventually, he met with his partners for this deal, a lawyer for a billionaire and the guy in charge of his security. Blatter showed them a few photos of two new employees caught in a major storm. The lawyer pulled out a yellow notebook, jotted down a payment of $50,000 for one installment, plus $2,000 a month for the next 10 years, and handed it to Blatter. Thinking about the taxes he might owe, Blatter wrote down the name of a company he controlled below the quote and asked if they could transfer the money directly into that account. After getting confirmed, Blatter took $50,000 in cash back to his office in Los Angeles. 2 new staff members were waiting for him to show up. Blatter then split the payment in half, giving one portion to them and keeping the other half for himself. While they were counting the cash, Blatter started chatting away about his latest risky adventure. He did this not only to justify sharing half the money but also to warn them about the risks if they changed their minds. After the Daniels lawsuit, more women started approaching Blatter for business, but the challenges in making deals also increased. More and more big shots are starting to question whether Blatter's promises are still worth anything. This doubt isn't just directed at Blatter, it's also affecting the entire hype industry in Hollywood. In the US capitalist system, this hype game holds a pretty unique spot. When you look at it, it's clearly in a weak and painful position. However, from the perspective of those being served, there's a close relationship with the ruling class of the empire. Every operating system creates its own frictions and conflicts. The hush money industry is valuable because it allows the American ruling class to handle most issues without too much fuss, keeping up their classy image. So, it's also a key force supporting the empire's rule. While the decline of the hush money industry doesn't significantly impact the overall economy of the US, it does raise the costs of maintaining the entire system. In other words, to get Trump out of the White House and seize power, the core ruling class had to act. Don't hold back when it comes to viewing border systems as sacrifices that support imperial rule. The White House is the surface-level power center of the empire. If someone incompetent ends up in the White House, then using every means necessary to kick them out is definitely something the empire loves to talk about, calling it a limitation of power. But if that limitation comes at the expense of the ruling class at the borders, it can end up undermining the whole system. Because the positions of the borders and the center are relative, no one knows when this power struggle will finally come to a stop in this life-and-death battle for power. The principles that liberal capitalism prides itself on, like contract spirit, democracy, and the rule of law, will be seriously shaken when the human desire for order takes precedence over everything else. This will create a power that surpasses all other powers, and the entire system will ultimately decay into a brutal fascist dictatorship. In reality, this is no longer just a prediction. When Hollywood's hush-hush industry hit a rough patch, a Gallup survey in 2022 revealed that American trust in the Supreme Court dropped to an all-time low of just 25%. It's worth noting that the U.S. Supreme Court is not only a key pillar in the system of checks and balances but has also been a sacred symbol throughout Western constitutional history. Now, attacks on Trump have spread to the Supreme Court. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer spoke out about this in June of this year. Criticizing the die-hard MAGA supporters who have taken over the Supreme Court, some Democrats are openly calling for a weakening of their power. One day, when the monument to free market capitalism crumbles and no one worships it anymore, no one will remember that the seeds of chaos were sown the moment Barack Hussein Obama mocked that man.